To begin part 4, oh my goodness, we're already doing part 4. Okay, let's do it. We're gonna start this by talking about Wendy Bird. I've already spoken about how Wendy's ambition causes her to go down this path where she no longer prioritizes the interests of her family. Over time, her selfish pursuits force Marty to conform to her ways.
I'm not letting go of anything until I know it's impossible. If you loved me, you'd do the same.
Marty did love her, so he ended up doing the same. In the previous seasons, they could have tried to leave on a plane, they could have made a deal with the FBI, they could have tried a bunch of other ways to leave at any point, but Wendy didn't want to. The reason why Wendy was so stubborn about starting the Bird Family Foundation has to go all the way back to her childhood. Wendy hated her father, and it's implied that she was constantly receiving beatings from him. She even claims that after she returned home from running away, he hit her so hard that she couldn't walk for 2 days. So during her youth, she felt very trapped and powerless. Before Marty and Wendy decided to take the trip with Dell, Wendy told Marty a story about her childhood, specifically about how she used to break into houses as a kid. It wasn't to steal anything, although she claims,
I'd have a beer or two, so I guess I did.
Wendy was doing it to feel what it's like to have a more wealthy and stable household. She claims that it was liberating to feel like someone else.
I would stretch out. I'd stretch out on these big wraparound couches, and God, I'd feel just this clean fabric underneath my arms and my legs. And oh my God, it was so comfortable.
But then she was hit with that hard dose of reality that she didn't belong there. So she acted out.
I'd move picture frames around. I'd turn toothbrushes upside down. I'd put blue food coloring in the milk.
In Season 3, Episode 1, Wartime, Wendy finishes a successful meeting with Navarro, so she decides to revisit or break into their old home in Chicago, a home that belonged to the life that was taken from her. She peacefully walks around and reflects on the life that she used to have. She walks upstairs to the son's room and feels the fabric on his bed sheets. You know, the same way that she used to feel the fabric on the wraparound couches. But after seeing a big old picture of another family in the living room and just chilling in the house for a bit, Wendy once again is overcome by the realization that she doesn't belong there. So she acts out, repeating the same mildly destructive behavior she exhibited as a kid, starting with having a beer, then moving on to putting food coloring in the milk, as well as moving picture frames around. Since she was a kid, Wendy always strived to have a better life. Then she finally achieved it, and it was taken from her. So she tried everything to get it back. When moving to the Ozark, she was feeling the same way that she did in the episode Kaleidoscope.
And for some reason lately, that's how I've been feeling. It's like a fraud.
Whether or not Wendy is fully aware of it, I think she kind of sees herself in Ruth, as they both grew up poor and with an abusive father. They both had this need to escape and start something of their own. Cade was a threat to the Birds because he was going to expose their entire operation. He was also trying to steal all of their money, and he also killed Petty, who was a federal agent. So needless to say, his presence in the Ozarks was kind of an issue. Because of this, Wendy ended up ordering the hit on Cade, thus killing him, which was a very significant moment in the series, as Wendy crosses that line of killing someone and becomes a little power hungry. Season 4 reveals a lot of depth and reasoning behind this decision. Like that one moment I was just talking about from Season 4, Episode 9, Pick a God and Pray, when Wendy claims that her father hit her so hard that she couldn't walk for 2 days. At first, I thought that Wendy killed Cade because of all the reasons I previously listed, as well as the fact that Cade attacked her daughter, which it was. Those were definitely the reasons as to why she killed him, but there was another reason. The fact that Cade reminded Wendy so much of Nathan. Wendy saw that Ruth needed protection from Cade, the kind of protection that Wendy never had as a kid. Looking back and knowing about Wendy's history with her father, it's poetic that Wendy's first kill is an abusive father. Wendy's history definitely adds a lot more context as to why she's so hell-bent on staying in the Ozarks and continuing to work with the cartel, as she now has the resources to fight the helplessness she suffered from her entire life. Over the course of the series, Wendy and Ruth gain money, connections, and power. But once they're in a bad situation with their fathers, they break down and revert to the state from their past selves. After Ruth fails to get a boat part for her dad, she starts uncontrollably sobbing and stuttering and begging him to give her another chance to make him proud of her. When Wendy feels like Nathan is going to take her kids from her, she begs on her knees to make a deal with him. In these states, they both repeatedly apologize and do some serious self-deprecation. Both of them incorporate the word daddy into their vernacular.
You gotta give me another chance, Daddy.
Daddy, please. Don't take them.
representative of how they're reverting to this childlike state of helplessness. When Wendy is begging Nathan not to take her kids, you can see Ruth over here empathizing with what exactly Wendy is going through. So I'm glad that we got to see this much needed exchange between Ruth and Wendy in the series finale.
Your dad's a real piece of by the way. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry about yours.
Wendy even tries offering her father money the same way she offered Cade money to leave town. But was this hinting at the fact that Wendy was going to kill her father the same way that she killed Cade? Yes, that's exactly what that was. Marty threatened Ruth with telling Camilla about what really happened to Javi if Ruth didn't get Wendy's kids back for her. So Ruth kind of had no other choice when it came to dealing with Nathan. But given Ruth's past and Nathan being another terrible father, it must have been pretty satisfying for her to ruin Nathan's plan. Anyway, Wendy's father wouldn't accept $2 million as he would rather take her kids to get back at her for being a so-called embarrassment, as well as the fact that Nathan favored Ben over Wendy, and Wendy's actions clearly led to Ben's disappearance. But Wendy definitely won in the end. She got her kids, and she also had her father accept a bunch of money from the Bird Family Foundation, the same kind of money that he previously rejected for being drug money. So even though Nathan benefits financially, he still loses because he can no longer hurt Wendy. Also, there's something I want to quickly address. I've heard some people say that Navarro's plan of wanting to leave the cartel at the beginning of season 4 was pretty sudden and unexpected. Almost like it didn't make sense that the man who just became the leader of the #1 drug cartel in Mexico would suddenly want to give up his position. Like the Lagunas cartel was defeated and suddenly Navarro feels as if he can't handle his family. But Navarro's decision of stepping down from his position isn't something that just happened overnight. Wendy got Navarro thinking about a more legal way of living when Wendy pitched him the idea of leaving legitimate assets for his kids in season 3 episode 1 Wartime. And Navarro started formulating this idea of making a deal with the FBI when Marty promised him that he would compromise an FBI agent in season 3 episode 4 Boss Fight.
I'll turn her. No matter how much she's gonna be working for me. And then we're all safe.
So Navarro didn't just suddenly have this plan. It's something that he's been thinking about since he first made his on-screen appearance. Navarro and the Birds were all trying to think of a way to get out of the cartel to protect their families. Ozark wanted to make a distinct parallel between Navarro's family and the Bird family. At the end of season 3, we see that Navarro has 2 children and an infant, similar to how Wendy and Marty have 2 children, Jonah and Charlotte, as well as a baby named Zeke. This was definitely a better comparison to make before the Birds stopped caring about Zeke. In season 4 episode 7 Sanctified, we see a flashback of Marty in the backyard of the Bird family house in Chicago. In this flashback, Marty is calling Bruce and telling him to get the office Marty was so hesitant about getting because he was frugal AF. Showrunner Chris Mundy claims that this scene was the first thing they shot for the pilot, meaning it was the first thing they ever shot for Ozark. They ended up cutting it from the pilot and it was later used as this memory that you see right here, meaning this footage is as old as like 2016, 2017. When the Birds first arrive in the Ozarks, they encounter the Snell family and the Langmore family. The Snells were forced to move up into the hills after a power company built a dam that flooded their land. The Snells family farm was around 500 acres, and every year Darlene and Jacob use their profits to buy 10 acres of land so that they can gain leverage over the power company that displaced their family. Similar to how the Bird family was displaced from their life in Chicago. Then we just go on over to the Langmore family. The Langmores were the polar opposite of the Birds. The Birds come from this wealthy and pleasant life in Chicago, while the Langmores have been stuck on that land in poverty for generations. This is due to the supposed Langmore curse. The way showrunner Chris Mundy looks at it is that the Langmore curse is sort of this curse of capitalism.
I think in some ways the Langmores are cursed. It's the sort of curse of capitalism.
In part 1 of my Ozark Explained series, I mentioned how in season 1 episode 7 Nestbox, we see a documentary about the European starling, an invasive species of bird that destroys the ecosystem. This was symbolic of the Bird family coming to the Ozarks and ruining everything. In a farewell to Ozark, Mundy even mentions this comparison.
In some ways, the Birds have been this invasive species that came in and they've wiped out, all the Langmores are gone.
Other than Zeke and 3, the Langmore family and the Snell family are completely wiped off the map, all thanks to the Birds. Those are all my thoughts today about Ozark Season 4 Part 2. So you know what to do. Don't like this video, don't subscribe, don't comment anything, don't ever watch this channel again. And what's the last one again? Oh yeah, thanks for watching.